So this presentation that I'm giving is from a student's perspective. I've been working with students for several years. I do not feel anywhere close to being an expert on the subject. So I'm going to give you information that I have received and that I have found as a student. My own research and things that I have learned while I've been working in the records. While researching, and I'm sure many of you have come across this while researching any subject, I find a lot of complementary ideas across different resources. So several different resources will say the same thing about the Akashic Records. I also find a lot of conflicting information. So as a student, I need to absorb the information and figure out what it is that fits into my scheme of things. So when I talk about something like that, I'll let you know what I've found and what I believe, but it's up to you whether you're going to take it, which information you're going to take forward. So I'm going to start by talking about what the Akashic Records are and what they are not. The word Akasha is a Sanskrit word, and here I come across many similar but different meanings. The meaning that I find most helpful to me is that Akasha is the substance of what everything is made of. So it's the energy, it's everything. It's what matter is made of. It's not just matter, it's what matter is made of. The word Akasha, I found several different meanings. Some people say it means space, and it can mean outer space or space that you're in. Some people call it the source of life or the source of existence. As I said, I take it to mean everything, the substance of everything. It is very sensitive, so that everything, every energy vibration, every word, every action, every thought is recorded on Akasha. And that is what the Akashic Records are. It's the record of everything's existence from the beginning, if you believe there is one, to the present moment that you are in. You always look at the records from your perspective. Unless you're reading for someone else, then you're looking at it from your perspective. But your perspective in the time and place that you are in. When I was younger, I went to Catholic school, and I was always threatened with the permanent record thing. So if I did something bad, it would go into my permanent record. And it would stay with me for the rest of my life. And then when I grew older, I thought, oh, that was a bunch of crap. And then I started researching the Akashic Records, and I realized, oh, the nuns were right about something. The Akashic Records are your permanent record, but they're not there as a threat. They're there to record everything so that you can always access that information to see how far you've come, to get advice, to understand why you're here in this lifetime. The Akashic Records are very closely related to the concept of reincarnation because they record a soul's journey from the beginning of its existence, many lifetimes ago, however many lifetimes ago. The Akashic Records are a tool for explaining. When I was new to the concept of reincarnation, I went through past life regressions, and I was very excited because I got information that came out of myself. And for me, that was enough. The concept that there were past lives was enough for a long time. But after a while, it wasn't enough anymore because what's the point? And then I would have discussions with people, and people who didn't believe in reincarnation would bring up the point of, why would you just get reborn and not remember anything you did before? What is the point of that? Okay, touche. But it didn't make me stop believing in reincarnation. It made me look for, why would that happen? Why would you not remember? The answer is you do remember, and the Akashic Records are the way you remember. Accessing these records tells you why you've been here before, why you are here now, what you're doing here, why you have relationships with certain people. Accessing the records is also a tool to help you make decisions. You come to know why you're here right now, why you have relationships with people, why you're doing work that you're doing, and it helps you to make decisions to move forward. If you don't like what you're doing, You can find out why it exists and what you can do to change it. And an important thing to remember about the records is that they are accessible wherever you are, in all places, and whenever you are, at all times. Your records are accessible to you. What the Akashic Records are not. This is not a method of divination, like tarot or runes or something like that. There you go to get information maybe about what you should do, what will happen, but it's very specific to a time, maybe this lifetime, and about what you should do in this lifetime. The Akashic Records are not for that. The same question, you don't ask the same questions that you ask of a divination in the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records are not only accessible by certain people who are trained or initiated. They are always accessible to everyone. Whether you choose to access them yourself or whether you choose to have someone do it for you, either way, it's your choice. It's not like only certain people can do it. And they're not set in stone records of the future. It's not where you go to find out what's going to happen. It's where you go to find out what can happen and how you can make it happen. When you access your records, you are communicating with spirit in certain forms. The sources of information in the records are given to you by spiritual beings. A set of spiritual beings, one set is called the Lord of the Records. Lords of the Records. And they guard the records. They make sure that people who are accessing them from a pure state of mind for a pure reason, not to do harm to other people, not to inflict harm on the world. So they guard them. They are the ones that decide what information is given to you at every time. The Lords of the Records have not taken physical form. They are spiritual beings that exist and have chosen to exist as part of the records to monitor what happens and to make sure that information that's given is useful at that time. Another set of beings that you'll encounter in the records are called masters, teachers, and loved ones. These are our ancestors. Some of them have taken human form before, some of them have not. Some of them are you in different forms. They sometimes you'll recognize spirit that you're talking to, a lot of times you won't. You get images and not necessarily like you're sitting and talking to a person. Many of you have heard of the mystic Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce's information came from the Akashic Records, and he says so in many of his readings. This man was able, this was in the 1930s, he was able to lay down on his couch and close his eyes and shift into a consciousness that brought him into the Akashic Records. He could read them for himself, for other people, and he could also read them for the world. Much of what he says was predictive and came true. That's not always the kind of information you get from the records. As I said, accessing your records can come in two forms. You can do it yourself, or you can have someone do it for you. When I started reading tarot cards many years ago, it was great fun, and I asked all kinds of questions. And after a while, when I got good at it, as people said, I couldn't read for myself anymore. And sometimes that happens with any tool you use. You need to go to someone else to help you because you can't be non-judgmental about it. And we've talked about this earlier today. It's very difficult to get a message from spirit and not put a spin on it yourself because we're human beings. Sometimes you'll need someone else to access them for you. However, people cannot access your records without your permission. You need to give specific permission for someone to go in and get information from you. If you don't, and they try to access it, this is where the Lords of the Records step in and you get information, but it's probably not accurate. Probably doesn't have to do with the person. Instead, it has to do with the person trying to access it. And many times, you don't recognize that. Ways to access the records. You can do it through meditation, like Edgar Casey did. If you kind of try to do it on your own, many people can do it. They don't understand that they're in the records. You can try to do it on your own through meditation. One source that I found said that likened the meditation part, or the skills that you use, the psychic skills that you use to get into the records, to the same skills that you use when you're doing psychometry. Psychometry is reading something, holding an object and reading it. What they said is by strengthening those skills, you're able to shift more easily into the records. I actually don't see the connection, but okay. A way that does work for me, and it actually has worked for everyone I know that has tried it, is called the Pathway Prayer Process. That is the process that is outlined in this book, How to Read the Akashic Records by Linda Howe. Linda is a teacher, has been a teacher of mine for many years, and I've kind of followed her through many different incarnations of her beliefs, and this is the latest one. She has developed, through working in the records, a specific process that is a prayer that came to her through the records that opens the records for you. You ask questions while you're in it, and then it closes the records for you. It has worked for me every time, as I said. I come from a Christian background, but I'm not Christian any longer. She comes from a Christian background. She's not Christian any longer, to a degree. And much of the process uses Christian words. And to me, that doesn't bother me, because it does get me to where I'm going. And it has a bigger meaning than just words that are assigned to a specific belief. I'm not sure exactly what her perspective is in using the Christian words, although she says it's from her background, it's something familiar to her, and that's the information you'll get from the records as well. So it's familiar to you that you can use in your life now. You go into your records seeking information, so you need to have specific questions in mind when you're going in. You could go in and sit there, and it feels nice, but you don't get anything because they don't know why you're there. You need to formulate questions, what exactly it is that you're looking for before you go in. And you need to be careful about the kinds of questions you ask. This is not divination. So yes and no questions, you're probably not going to get any kind of good answer. When questions. The concept of time in the records is not the same concept of time that we have here. So if you're going to the records and say, when am I going to meet the love of my life? You're not going to get a date. You'll meet the love of your life after you have worked through this situation, after you have resolved your situation with so-and-so, and after you've done this. It's not a specific time. It's things you have to do, the actions you have to take in order to get to that point. The questions that you do want to ask are why questions. Why have I not moved on from this? Or how questions. What do I need to do? How can I make this change in my life? The forms of information that you receive are kind of the same. All of you have done ritual work, I'm guessing, or meditations. It's visions. Sometimes you hear things. Sometimes it's feelings. And it is all open to interpretation. So again, we have to be careful about adding that, what we want to hear, as opposed to what we're hearing. The pathway prayer process, part of that is specifically asking the beings in the Akashic Records to give us information in a way that is helpful to us without adding any of our own, without putting additive in it. And this is especially important when you're reading for someone else. We've talked about this again this morning. You just say what you see. I've read for many other people. Most of what I get makes absolutely no sense to me. Some of it is silly, but when I say it out loud, they understand it. It's none of my business. It's none of my business to change it or not say it, because I'm asking for information and I'm getting it. I need to pass it types of information that you'll receive in the records. Explanations of things. Why do I keep losing my job? Why this? It's very good. They're very good about explaining patterns in your life. And what you can, sometimes, when you receive an explanation, that's all you need. Many times the explanations go back to previous lives. So you'll get an account of someone, which is actually you, living a past life, and you get an idea of what happened to this person. And you're understanding that that was you. And just hearing what happened is enough for you to move on. Sometimes you need more information, like this has happened to you 3 times already in different lives. And you get information about what to do to make it stop happening. Someone that I read lost her husband and was remarried and had children, but still had a very difficult time letting go of her husband that had passed away. We went into her records and we found this same relationship several times before in several different lifetimes. What the relationship was stemmed on was they kept being incarnated together, and the husband incarnation would leave first and leave something undone, and she would agree to do it. So in this lifetime, she couldn't get past taking care of his family. Even though she had married someone else, had her own family, she's still in touch with their family, very needy people, couldn't get away from them, couldn't figure out why. In a previous incarnation, they were soldiers together in World War I. The one incarnation left first, and her incarnation, which was male at that time, took care of his family for the rest of their lives. And this kept happening, and she couldn't figure out why. After she heard the different incarnations and understood it, she started to be able to let go of her deceased husband's family. It's not like they couldn't survive without her. It was her constantly going to them and offering help. So she understood that that wasn't appropriate anymore and wanted to move on from that. So this trip into the records helped her with that. So explanations are something you'll get. Past life information you'll get. Not just to confirm that there are past lives, but something that's still affecting you in this life and what you can do about it. Comparisons, you'll get comparisons about what's happening to you in this life, not what's happening to you, what you're choosing to happen in this life, and why this pattern keeps repeating. And you'll get instructions. How can you stop this? How can you change it? When you get information from the records, there are choices about what you can do with it. You can just listen to it. It could be just interesting. Maybe you're not exactly ready to do anything about it now, but you need it so that you can do something about it later. You can follow the instructions that happen, that are given to you. You can analyze it, and you can analyze it for a long time. And I know that because I'm still analyzing things that I've got. Sometimes understanding why something is happening is not enough. You really need to plan it and work with it before you can accept it. And you can make a choice. Actually, anything you do is making a choice, even if you're not going to do anything. The title of this presentation is The Akashic Records as a Oracular Tool. And at first, I was a little put off by that because oracular, prior to today, meant to me some kind of prediction. And that's not what the records are necessarily for. But now I understand more that oracular is really communication with spirit, and that's exactly what the records are communication with spirit. It's not the future set in stone. In fact, there are theories, again, conflicting theories that I found in my research about the future in the Akashic Records. Some sources say that there's nothing about the future in the Akashic Records because it hasn't happened yet. Some sources say that at any particular moment you access your records, every possible choice you have and every possible outcome from that choice is there. And it's just a matter of you picking the one. Although I like that idea, that's kind of overwhelming. And it kind of, I get this idea of predestiny, which I don't believe in. But again, as a student, this is something I'm working through. It's certainly possible that it's all there. And then there's the idea that time is not linear. So everything is happening at the same time. So obviously everything has to be in records because from some perspective it's already happened or it is happening. This is something, again, as a student, I'm still working through. What is the future of the records? I will say this, I don't think it's set in stone because then we don't have any choice. And that's just completely a foreign idea to me. Prior to understanding what oracular meant, I thought of the records as being a source of creating a future, and I still think that. From your perspective, wherever you are now till forever, there is a linear sequence to your existence, so there is something to move forward to, and using the records is very helpful in kind of making the decisions that you need to make to create your future. So, does anyone have any questions? Unfortunately, I can't really bring everyone into the records. It's a very personal thing, and I'm not at a point where I can read you individually. I can't bring everyone in and bring you out again.
And is it not sometimes also a very emotional thing?
Yes, even for the reader, that really has nothing to do. I have experience where I'm reading someone, and the life that we're talking about is very emotional. There's death, there's loss of family members, and I am getting emotional about it. And to me, that's very interesting because it's a process, a personal process that you're going in to someone's records, and they're allowing you to, and it's a very personal thing. So, I have a list of resources, which are some books and some websites, which I'll leave here if you're interested.
Pass them around?
Yeah, sure. However, this book, and it's not just because she's my teacher, she doesn't even know I'm doing this, this tells you the whole process of how to get into your records yourself. It gives you the whole prayer, gives you the prayer to come out of it, talks about what you can find in there and how to use it to make decisions, how to use it to help clear up problems in your life. One of the things that you and I talked about, Dominic, was the difference between entering your own records and being regressed, past life regression. And we've said already that it's very similar, although it's a different kind of energy. When you're being regressed, the information is coming out of you, out of your memories that you're being regressed into. When you go into the records, it's message from spirit. So it's spirit that's telling you here's what your past life is, instead of you consciously remembering it, as opposed to regression. Does anyone have any questions? Sure.
I've been trying to grab it.
Just go up and say, excuse me. Hello. Well, thank you very much for listening. As you might have surmised, this is my first talk.
Good job. You get a big star in your permanent record. This October, the world of pagan voices comes together in one global gathering, the Pagan World Congress. 5 days, over 100 hours, speakers, rituals, music, and town halls streamed across the world. Join the conversation, shape the future, be part of history. The Pagan World Congress, October 9th through 13th, 2025. Online at paganworld.co.